And we're recording. Welcome to the Festive 50s, a fan podcast, episode 2. I'm Martin Johnston.
I'm John Johnston, the younger version.
Younger and better, some would say. How are you?
Not bad, not bad.
Yeah. What did you have for your tea?
What did we have? Homemade pizza.
Oh, nice. With was it meat? Was it a meat feast?
Not a meat feast. There's only 2 meats on it, so yeah, and onions and peppers. Yeah.
Not much of a feast.
No, more of a meat snack.
Excellent.
What did you?
We had cauliflower and potato curry left over from last night, so I had it with chips and rice. And I don't know if you are a fan of Seabrook's crisps.
Yes.
Well, they do chips now, and yeah, and they're actually quite low in fat, so they're below 5% fat. Because I try and eat, because I've got gallstones, I try and eat less than 5% fat, and they're less than 5%. So, and they're cheese and onion flavored. So
nice. I have to look for them.
Yeah, look out for them. Seabrooks, if you want to send us any money, then,
or chips.
Oh, chips, yeah. We're happy to be paid in chips. But you can't just send them in the post because then they won't be frozen anymore.
No, true. Crisps will do that.
Yeah, exactly. The crisps. A box of crisps might be better for everybody's sake.
Yeah.
You know, if you're going to force this sponsorship on us, then...
if not, other crisps and chips are available.
Indeed, many, many others. So we last week, the Wheel of Fortune dictated that this episode number 2 is going to be dedicated to Festive 50 of 1994.
Yes, indeed.
A very interesting year. On the 17th of September, he did 50 to 43, and on the 23rd of December, he did 42 to number 1. Have you got your info sheet in front of you? Do you know what else was happening in 1994?
In 1994, it was a big year. It's a big year for history, and huge year for music with E17 doing the Christmas number 1 with Stay Another Day. I think everybody in the world still knows that song. Wet, 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 Love Is All Around was just the biggest selling thing of all time, I think, that year. And in history, we had Nelson Mandela was made first black president of South Africa.
Oh, excellent.
And the world's first smartphone came out, made by IBM, and it was called Simon.
Oh. And I presume it was a brick with a big aerial on
it. It wasn't too bad. It was the usual palm kind of shape, but it was more of a kind of green screeny kind of thing, rather than, multifunction. But I think it was more about just having a flat green touchscreen rather than physical buttons.
Well, fair play to them. There is a TV series called 1994. I think it might be Italian. It is Italian. I think I watched the first few, and it's like kind of political intrigue in Rome. And because I'm a big fan of Gomorrah and a few other Italian things, I thought it was going to be great, and it wasn't that great. So don't bother watching 1994. So the biggest song of the year was Wet, Wet, Wet.
Yeah, Love Is All Around.
And the E17 boys were sat proudly at the top in their white parkas.
White parkas.
For Christmas. You know how Christmas songs seem to kind of ebb and flow?
Yeah.
Like you couldn't move for the Pogues a couple of years ago, then that seemed to dropped off a bit. The Hawaiian one seemed to be quite popular recently.
Yeah.
And Feliz Navidad as well, that seemed to be quite popular. I mean, we're just about to go into Christmas. But E17 seems to have gone off the radar a bit.
They are a bit weirdly hit and miss. The only band that Carter USM ever did a remix for.
Right, okay, interesting.
They played in the Big Sheep here. Well, when I say they played, one of the three, the least known member is the only one that's still going, and him and two mates now tour as the 17, and they were down the road here at the Big Sheep.
When you say here,
yeah,
where are
Bideford,
you?
North Devon, Bideford,
and I'm in Manchester for anybody who's interested. In Stockport. So, did you go and see East 15?
We didn't because we could hear them from here. Sometimes
nice.
when the wind's in the right direction, etc., we don't have to be down there because it's less than a mile away, and we can hear everything drifting up the hill.
Amazing. So you did very, very well.
And we got bad manners the same way as well.
I would have thought you'd have been given your early love of bad manners. Wasn't it the first record you ever bought?
Yeah, my first record I ever bought. It was one of those didn't know if I'd be able to get the time off, and I thought, I'm not going to get a ticket, but if I can go on the night, I'll go on the night, and then it sold out.
So you just sat in the garden?
Yeah. And I didn't hear Nini Na 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 Nunu.
Anyway, so, So if they hadn't played it, it would have been a disappointment anyway.
Exactly.
One interesting thing from Wikipedia, the Line Islands and the Phoenix Islands of Kiribati. I've never heard of the Line Islands, but they're in the not Equatorial Guinea, but they're also known as the Equatorial Islands. But apparently the Line Islands and the Phoenix Islands of Kiribati in 1994 only had 364 days. They lost December the 31st due to an adjustment of the international dateline.
Oh, so the rest of the world carried on, and they went, well, you guys have got to suffer and lose a day.
Yep.
All right. I suppose we have to somewhere.
I wonder if everybody lost a day's pay and everything like that.
Yeah. Oh, they should be claiming that back.
Yeah. They're probably still trying to get that back. So that's a few of the more interesting things that were happening in 1994. How old were you in 1994? 17.
No, I was 27, sorry.
I was going to say 27. And I would have been, what was I?
31? Were you 6?
I'm 62 at the moment.
Yeah, so you'd have been 31 because you're about 4 or 5 years older than me, depending on when it is in the year.
Yes, I was 31. You're right. God, that's what happens when you get to this age. You just do not care about previous ages. Well, we have a very interesting festive 50 of 1994, and I think I had dipped out of the festive 50s by this stage because although I know a lot of the bands and quite a few of the songs, I also do not know a lot of the songs. I know a lot of the bands, but I don't know a lot of the songs. So it's going to be an interesting ride. Do you want to count down from 50 to 41?
Yeah. So we started with at number 50, Trans Global Underground at Tal Zaman. Tuscadero at 49 with Angel in a Half Shirt. 48 was Sleeper with Swallow. 47, Sonic Youth with Superstar. 46, ROC with Girl with a Crooked Eye. 45, Hole with Doll Parts. 44, Nirvana's About a Girl. 43, Underworld with Dirty Epic. 42, Elastica Lineup. 41, The Fall with M5, the Peel Session version. And 40, Nirvana's Where Did You Sleep Last Night? I say Nirvana, it was a cover, but it was them.
It was them doing the cover. Hooray, The Fall have turned up. I still can't believe that in the very first one, 82, there were no Fall tracks. Went to see House of All on Saturday night, by the way.
Nice.
Yeah, they were quality as always. 3 drummers at one stage. Tiny, tiny stage, and they still managed 3 drummers on there. I've never seen that before. Seen 2 drummers, never seen 3 drummers. But yeah, seeing as they were all key, all 3 of those drummers are key members of the Fall, so it was great to see them.
Cool.
That being Messrs. Wollstonecraft, Hanley, and Burns. Right, so it's my task now to go from 39 to 30. So the wedding, it's bookended by the wedding present at 39 and at 30. Wedding present with Spangle at 39. The Fall again with City Dweller at 38. 37, the wedding present again with So Long Baby. 36, Salt Tank with Charged Up. 35, Madder Rose with Panic On. 34, Pavements Cut Your Hair. 33, Ashes Petrol. 32, Beck's Loser. 31, Orbitals Are We Here, Industry Standard. And at 30, as I said, was the wedding present with Click Click. A lot of wedding present, and I think there's more to come.
Yeah, this was a massive year for a wedding present, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yep. Indoors, Indoors, my partner's favourite band. Seen them this year as well.
Oh, their new tour that they're right in the middle of.
Yeah, and interestingly, because last year was anniversary of George Best, I think it was, or maybe Sea Monsters. So obviously that was dedicated to that. But this year, what he did was he started with his most recent song and worked backwards to the very first single.
Wow, cool.
Which is like and as he always grumpily says, we don't do encores. So it's a great way to do it because, the last 3 songs are 3 of the best. So that gets the mosh going. So he's, and I think it was one of the times when I've seen him most enjoying. I don't, he's not that miserable. I was only joking, but he really enjoyed himself at the gig. So fair play, Mr. Gedge.
Yeah, good on him.
So do you want to do 29 to 20?
So 29, The Sabres of Paradise with Wilmot. 28, Ash with Uncle Pat. 27, Nirvana's The Man Who Sold the World, again, cover. 26, That Dog, One Summer Night. 25, Mazzy Star with Fade Into You. 24, Shellac, The Dog and Pony Show. 23, Pulp, Babies. 22, another showing for Pavement with Gold Sound. 21, another Pulp, Common People with another Peel Station track. And 20, another repeat with Sleeper with Delicious.
Pulp suddenly turn up as well. A couple of them. People really like their album this year, don't they? I have to say it. I'm not a massive Pulp fan. I never really got Pulp. I mean, I can see it. I can see the popness of it, the Brit-pop stuff, and I think, but I don't think they're just particularly special. Tell me.
I really like. There are some absolutely outstanding tracks. Babies is a fantastic track. They started out on Fire Records, didn't they, with the same label, Colenso Prebrum.
Indeed, yeah. They were on with them together, and he was in a wheelchair that night.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
Sounds about right. But yeah, he the kind of sound they were doing then and that early time kind of took a while to settle into getting this kind of kitsch pop sound that they ended up with. That was very, very 90s.
Yes.
Very much, you hear it now and it is like, oh, yeah, 90s. You don't think, oh, that survived the ravages of time. You just think, oh, this reminds me of. That's how I see it. But it is. I really like some of their tracks. Some of them, there are some songs like Common People, Disco 2000 that have worn thin on our kind of idea that some tracks should never be heard again because they never stop getting played. But there are some that I really, really like. Babies is a great track. But I get why people would find them tiring.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, each to their own. I'm not sure. They still seem to have a lot of fans, but I never, one of those bands for me, never quite got them. So at 19's Madder Rose again with Car Song. Shellax Crow is at 18. Hole's Miss World is at 17. Sebado's Rebound is at 16. 15 is The Wedding Present, Swimming Pools and Movie Stars. Pavement are at 14 with Range Life. 13 it's Pulp again with Do You Remember the First Time. 12 is Ash and Jack Names the Planets. 11 is H Foundation and Leica. There you go, which means you can do the top 10. Do you know what Leica means? I know you know who Leica is.
No.
It means peasant. It's like a charming term for like rogue, that kind of word. But the literal translation is peasant. So she was a poor little peasant dog.
Very poor little peasant dog.
Yeah, there's a fantastic comic book about Leica. Really great story. She was the one that withstood all the tests and everything, and they pretended that it was a disaster, but they knew from minute one that she was going to die up there. Anywho, poor old Leica. Poor old Leica. Yes, I've got no idea who H Foundation are were or anything about that song. But give us the top 10.
So top 10. Number 10, Done Lying Down with Just a Misdemeanor. Number 9, Stereolab with Ping Pong. Number 8, Portishead with Sour Times. Number 7, Elastica, Waking Up. Number 6, LSG with Hearts. Number 5, Supergrass, Caught by the Fuzz. Number 4, Elastica with Connection. Number 3, Veruca Salt with Seether. 2, The Fall with Hey Student, another Peel session. And number 1, the Spiral Carpet featuring Marky Smith of The Fall with I Want You. And that's a cracking track.
That is a cracking track. Saturn 5, though, that's the Inspiral Carpets one to whack on the dance floor. Certainly, if you want me to dance. There was a club we used to go to in London, and they played that. They played, and they used to always back it up with "Here Comes Your Man," and then they had the Stone Roses after that. What Stone Roses track would it have been?
Waterfall?
No. Anyway, there's my memory for you. But yeah, you're happy with that number 1?
Oh, very happy with that. So weird top 10 for a Peel show, in that you could see most of it being in the same top 10 that year in the main chart. Elastica, Supergrass, Ash, Inspiral Carpet, all of those big hits in the main charts.
Yeah, this is one of the things, like I say, because I was over the Festive 50s. Not, deliberately, but I just wasn't listening to them by then. Being married with a child, John Peel just wasn't on my radar then. Yeah. Looking at this top 50, that is the thing that really stands out. How much kind of, let's not use the word commercial, let's just stick with Britpop. But when you've got stuff like you said, Elastica, next to Portishead, you got Veruca Salt next to The Fall. I mean, Elastica at number 4. Supergrass Caught by the Fuzz is a tune, but that must have been one of the biggest songs of the year, I would say, in any chart.
Same album as the reissue, when they reissued the first Supergrass album, and they threw All Right onto it to make the money. It was still their first single. Not sure they even Top of the Pops it. At the time, 94, a friend of mine was in a band in Oxford, and I used to go and help him lug his drums about. And we used to rehearse in the same place as Supergrass and Radiohead. And they were on the same kind of town circuit, or city, I suppose, in Oxford. And we used to kind of catch them playing quite a lot. And Caught by the Fuzz was like really early with their stuff, and you'd see this. This is when we'd still be going like, "Oh, that's Danny," and then you'd see them. I mean, Nick ended up drumming for one of them, Mickey Finn. He went on tour with him in Europe as his drummer. But this was, for me, seeing Supergrass being the famous Supergrass was a weird jump from seeing them like in the pub down the road. And I still think this Caught by the Fuzz was a bit early for them being the big chart band that they became.
Yeah, but it did. But yeah, I think it. But it clearly just blew up, didn't it?
Oh yeah, yeah, they went mad very quickly.
Yeah,
They definitely hit a note.
yeah, and I think the other thing is it probably not when this first happened, but definite one stamp all over this is dance music. You know, you've got what have you got? Sabres of Paradise. You know, Underworld,
Underground.
yeah, Transglobal Underground at the foot. LSG, yeah. Well, I don't know anything about LSG. What's LSG?
Very much the same kind of sound with the Transglobal Underground and the Underworld. At Orbital, all those kind of sounds are very, very, that was like proto kind of trancy stuff.
EDM.
So that, yeah, very, very early way of looking at EDM, but they were very much that kind of very repetitive beat, very long pads and soaring sounds. Kind of wake up on a Sunday music.
Yeah, right. Okay. So early ambient,
Yeah.
or wake you up on a Sunday. Yeah. So yeah, delighted to see the fall all over this and the wedding present all over it as well. I've made my feelings known about Pulp.
Yep.
So before we go to the categories, anything general, anything else general you wanted to point out?
One thing I do know is that there are a couple of tracks on here that made it into the top 50 that weren't or were claimed by John Peel to have never actually played on his show.
Yeah,
And one of them is Mazzy Star's Fade Into You.
that's really interesting, isn't it? I think what I was looking at a couple of the tracks I hadn't heard of. I noted that, and that's really because that is such a great song, and
Yeah.
you know, for people of our kind of generation and people who would have been, you know, into this kind of music. Yeah, it says at the bottom there. And the other one is what's the other one?
Was it a Nirvana track?
No, it's Madder Rose, Panic
Oh,
at
Madder
the
Rose.
and you know, similar kind of music,
Yeah. Yeah.
similar band, similar kind of music, and neither of those he claims he never played.
Mm. Which it could be that people would just assume, well, he must have played them. It's Madder Rose and Mazzy Star. Of course he's going to have played them and just voted for it anyway.
Yeah. Although the car song Madder Rose is probably, you know, arguably the better known track anyway. That doesn't have that mark that he doesn't say he didn't play it. So, the categories. So, what's the best song? What's the one song? The house is burning down. You're going to lose everything else. What's the one song that you're going to keep? That you're going to singe your hands to take with you?
I would singe my hands for Portishead's Sour Time.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Interesting.
That album was an absolute. I know people who are into metal that'll listen to it. I know people that indie diehards that listen to it, dance. The cross genre of that sound was, you know, the first time I heard the album, I was like, "What? Yes, this is." I couldn't describe it as being. You couldn't put it. They invented a new genre of trip hop to try and, you know, put them into a pigeonhole.
Well, that's what I was going to say. So it's not even kind of trans genre, is it? It's new genre.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
post genre, ungenre.
Yeah. They took sampling and kind of beat mixing and this down beat kind of sound and turned it into something absolutely unique. And Beth Gibbons' voice is still on her last album that she released this year. Yeah, this year, still powerful and immediately recognizable. So yeah, I wouldn't hesitate to grab that straight away.
Well, for me, obviously, I've been banging on about the Fall, so it's hard to lose any of them. But although they're there's great songs there, especially City Dweller, big fan of. So hard to lose them, but I think the two Pavement tracks I'd be looking at, and I think Range Life. Although I think Cut Your Hair was
their top single.
I think Gold Sounds as well. You see, I think Cut Your Hair was the very first song I'd heard by them, and wowed me. So I've got quite an affection for that. But I think Range Life is the best song of the three that they've got in the Festive 50. So I've got the dogs in with me, and but he just seems to have woken himself up. Maybe he disagreed with me about Pavement. maybe he's more of a I don't know, Nirvana fan. You said with Nirvana that the about to go's a cover. Yeah, of course it is. Are they both from the MTV acoustic set? Yeah, that makes sense. That was very popular at the time, wasn't it?
Yeah, we were saying last time about whether they were single tracks that always made it in or whether they were album tracks. Well, nothing from the MTV Unplugged album was ever released as a single. So they must be including, whether it's changed, in the 12 years between, and you can vote for any track from single to album track. I can't remember, but yeah, definitely. I don't remember Nirvana releasing singles, or even their label releasing a single.
No, doesn't ring a bell with me either. So yes, you're saving Private Ryan. No, you're saving at number 8. Tower Times, and I'm saving Pavement's Range Life at number 14. And which one would you happily throw into the sea? Which is the worst song? And you're ready to go.
Yeah. I was looking at this yesterday, and the one band that sticks out on this that I always found tiresome was Hole, and it was a toss up between Miss World and Doll Parts. I think I'm going with Miss World. It's the faux righteousness, and I'm such a sad girl. I can't fall for it now, and I didn't fall for it then. It leaves me empty.
Yeah, not a massive fan of hers. She was a bit of a poser, wasn't she?
Yeah.
And this is nothing to do with gender or anything like that. She just I totally understand where you're coming from on that one. I'm almost, but I think it's just still about this side of the dial. Beck's Loser is almost in the I've heard it too much category.
Yeah.
But I think he's got some fantastic albums to make up for it anyway. So we'll let Beck off. But yeah, I've mentioned it already. I think Pulp's Common People, which is at number 21, I would throw into the sea as far as I could. And I don't care. I don't care that it's the Peel session. I don't know if that makes it better or not. But
it wasn't much different, to be honest. It just sounded a bit cheaper. Lack of production.
Yeah, which I think some bands that made some of their stuff more charming, didn't it? The Peel sessions.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. And
some of the Cocteau stuff when they did their one or two Peel sessions, the lack of heavy production gave a totally different sound. They're kind of more, even when they played live, it was a different sound to the Peel session sound.
And it's funny that when you go and see a band live, often you get, some bands try and just completely recreate the experience, and some bands don't bother. You just get a different song, and sometimes it really works, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Right, the third category is I've never heard of you. We need somebody who've never heard of, like, to be the nomenclature for this award. But the I've never heard of you. There's quite a few that I'm going to say.
Morrissey.
The Morrissey Award for I wish I'd never heard of you. The Morrissey Award for it's such a shame that your music is great because you're such a knob. I've never heard of you award. Right. Well, we've discussed LSG. I'd never heard of that. MSG. Done Lying Down. Not heard of that. H Foundation. That Dog. Salt Tank. I'd never heard of. ROC. I've never heard of. Tuscadero. I'd never heard of. You heard of any of them?
There's a few ROC and LSG. This was the time when there was a lot of this one record that made a massive impact in dance charts and the clubs, etc. And that kind of burn over into chart sales or chart recognition like this. But nothing ever happened with the band. So I think that's where a lot of this, because I looked into a couple of these and I thought, right, that makes sense. I think LSG went on to do something else. They ring a bell from something.
That's Oliver. He's clicked on the link and it tells us that he's an electronic music producer called Oliver Lieb.
Yes,
that was
but they were. Is this the same one? The trouble is, this was LSD. Also was used for another band that were an R&B supergroup, including Keith Sweat. So, and the LSG is derived from the first letter and the last name of each artist. So that's not the same LSG. So I must have been looking up the wrong one.
Well, the no, because the link I've got from the Peel fandom, it talks about this guy Oliver Lieb. But interesting notes on the links to Peel notes. So Peel said that if he was invited to do Desert Island Discs again, which he wasn't, he would put that in his Desert Island Discs. So basically in his top 10.
I've got a feeling it was quite a fancy kind of thing, but he liked that. I think he liked the kind of they were a trance act, German trance act.
Yeah. And Sheila was a big fan. She's a big fan of LSG, and she picked "Hidden Son of Venus," another LSG track on her pick of the day, which she used to get on the John Peel show, I think, intermittently. So in October 1997, she went for LSG. So yes, very, very loved by the Peels. We'll have to give them that.
I think he did like that kind of trance thing. I think it kind of went with his old hippie sensibility, didn't it? So it kind of gone with that, and which is probably why it's so high as a relative unknown.
Well, indeed, and the kind of punk sensibilities of people making their own music. That's what was starting to happen in '94. It became that electronically and kind of sampling and stuff, didn't it? So, Done Lying Down at number 10. Incredible. Who the hell are Done Lying Down?
Done Lying Down. Have a look.
I mean, that sounds like, when you see the name of a band who are in a pub on a Saturday night and they do covers.
Yeah.
We do covers, and we're done lying down.
And we're up to be here for you now.
Yeah, and then they start off with, I don't know, what would a covers band start with?
In the 90s, it'll be something by Blur, wouldn't it?
Could be, or it could be what was I going to say? Kinks. You really
That
got
could
me.
be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something like that. Because I'm thinking the Done Lying Down Sunday pub cover band version are quite rocky.
They recorded 4 Peel sessions.
Wow. British American rock group. That's a disturbing injury. Not in favour of that.
American vocal style and British punk roots.
Described as new wave of new wave.
Oh yeah, I remember those kind of descriptions. Ugh.
So yeah, I'll have to dig that track out and have a listen to it. So going down H Foundation, who made the song Leica, anything?
H Foundation were um, again a seems to be it's ambient. I'm going to go with a kind of ambient Brian Varga and Eric Galavid. It's giving kind of ambient.
It's giving
And had
ambient.
one album. Yeah, there's something about when you see certain things. The tracks are hear the sound, release, free your mind, passage of time, come with us. So I'm going with an ambient. I'm going to have to listen. Which for some reason, I didn't listen to this one. I usually do. Style described as tribal deep house, tech house. And maybe not so ambient, more fall to the floor thudding kind of sound. Normally, if it's got foundation on the end of it, you end up going,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Pretty safe. It's going to be some kind of dance music. It's got foundation in it. 36 was Salt Tanks Charged Up. Now, I would have bet my life that a band called Salt Tank was in some way kind of, punky, heavy punk, post-punk,
And they are a
hardcore.
ambient DJ project.
Yeah, of course. Everybody you've not heard of on this is a DJ project.
Yeah. 23 singles, 6 albums.
Incredible. Enjoyed a brief flirtation. Excuse me. Enjoyed a brief flirtation with the UK singles chart in May 1996 when their track Eugenia peaked at number 40. Fair play, lad. Fair play to Salt Tank. And then ROC. Bet that's
ROC again.
Electronica. There you go. Yeah.
Rahman Griffin. Is this the same one? Because I'm looking on Discog.
No, this ROC are a British electronica group founded in 1990 by Fred Browning and Patrick Nicholson.
Well, there's another ROC.
Producer Danton Supple, as if that's a real name, of Coldplay and Patti Smith, producing fame, later joined the band in 2017. The group still continues making music. There you go. So, and then the last one I hadn't heard of is Tuscadero.
Tuscadero. Where's Tuscadero from?
Oh no, they're indie rock. Fair play. From Washington DC.
Indie rock band.
The band took its name from Suzi Quatro's Happy Days character, Leather Tuscadero.
Yeah, that's it. I knew there was something in there. I was thinking, why do I know the name Tuscadero? But yeah, Happy Days. Yet another Happy Days crossover.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
Do you know my favourite Happy Days track? The fact?
Track or fact?
Fact.
Go on then.
That what's his name? Had a brother.
That's not much information.
No, I'm trying to
know what his name is.
The character, the main character, not the Bond.
Ron Howard.
Ron Howard.
Yeah.
I can't think of his character's name in it, but he had a brother who, in one episode, went upstairs to his room above the garage and then just never came back and was never mentioned again.
He had a brother.
Yeah. And another, he literally was written out and he just went upstairs and never came back down.
Well, that's one way of doing it. If you don't, if you didn't think the character was any good, come on. What was his name?
Oh, God.
Come on. Rich Cunningham.
Richie Cunningham. And what's his brother's name now? That's going to annoy me more than not remembering Richie Cunningham's name.
And the great thing about Happy Days, of course, is that's where we get the phrase "jump the shark."
It is. I was trying to describe it to Kate the other day, and when you kind of describe it, it doesn't make any sense as a description of why it's called jumping the shark. It was a weird.
Well,
Chuck Cunningham, he was called.
It was called.
And he was Chuck Cunningham, and had two different actors, and for 2 episodes, and it led to the term Chuck Cunningham syndrome. So not only did they give us jumping the shark, but they gave us Chuck Cunningham syndrome.
Whatever that is.
Oh, I'm guessing a character that just disappears for no apparent reason.
Or you just go to the garage and don't come back for a long time.
Yeah.
So, what is your swing your pants dance classic? What would you drop if you wanted people to dance, or what is the because mine is Sabres of Paradise.
Right.
Weatherall's. I think it was Weatherall's first project.
Yeah.
I don't know if
it would be
if it would really get people up, but that's the best dancey type thing on there that I. So that's what number is it? 29. Sabres of Paradise is Wilmot. You got anything else to get people cutting a rug?
I quite like Orbitals Are We Here, but it's not particularly dancey. But probably now, if I heard Dirty Epic, although Dirty Epic is Epic reissued, so it's just a dirtier version of Underworld Epic, and nearly anything that Underworld produce normally makes me want to move in some way or another. I find them very, I'm going to call it groovy.
Well, you're allowed to call it groovy. And if you find Underworld groovy, then that's right. You can have both. I'll let you have both. You can play them back to back.
That would last a long time. I think both tracks are about 9 minutes long.
There you go. And, to have a dirty version of something is even better.
True.
I mean, I can think of a lot of things that wouldn't be better dirty. But music probably every time.
Yes.
So what would Taylor Swift cover from this festive 50s, you think?
It's got to be Fade Into You, hasn't it? As the star.
Yeah, it really has, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, The Man Who Sold the World probably would work like the way Nirvana did it there, but probably maybe too similar to the way Nirvana did it there.
Or on that slightly slowed down kind of.
Yeah, literally acoustic. Her, when she comes out with a guitar on her own, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
She could probably do one of the Pavement tracks in an interesting way.
I'd like to see her do something like Cut Your Hair.
Yeah.
Because vocally that would be less of a challenge for her.
Indeed, or
but
Sebadone.
Faith-wise, or Sebadone, yeah, no, I couldn't.
I think Lou Barlow's in Manchester this very evening as we're recording, which is
all right.
Such a shame. Or it might be tomorrow night. Such a shame didn't get to see that, but found out about it too late. Yes, yeah, I think there's nothing else there that's jumping out at me for her. And what about pigs? What would they cover?
I'm going to go with Caught by the Fuzz. The short, sharp.
They could do a short, sharp, dirty version of that.
Mm.
They could keep it dirty. I'm also going to throw in Shellac. A couple of Shellac songs, Dog and Pony shows.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, out of the two.
And Crow. But yeah, I love a bit of Shellac. I think they make new music this year or last year, I think. Or did they just were they on tour? But anyway, love a bit of Shellac. And finally, if you had to do karaoke, one of these, which would you pick?
Possibly an Ash song.
Yeah, I was thinking that because they are it's kind of pop rock, isn't it? They're a bit of a what should I say? A guilty pleasure, Ash. You know, they're good pop rock songs, aren't they?
Yeah. The first album, 1977. But they're having a bit of a renaissance at the moment, aren't they? After their Glastonbury show, being one of only a handful of bands that have played at that Glastonbury in 25 years before as well, something like that.
Right. Okay. I didn't know that, but that's interesting.
And there were a couple of artists then that they were the youngest ever to play headline Glastonbury till Ash pointed it out that they headlined when they were 17. So a lot of people have got a long way to go before they can claim that one.
Fair play, absolutely fair play. I think I probably would go for Uncle Pat. Here's to Uncle Pat. Doesn't sound anything like that, but those other lyrics.
I reckon out of all of those, I think I'd probably end up with Where Did You Sleep Last Night?
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously Man Who Sold the World is quite an obvious, I think in the whole 50, it's the most obvious karaoke type song, I think. Although Common People, I'm sure a lot of people do Common People. A lot of common people do Common People quite often, I would imagine. And Pavement ones, again, I think would suit my kind of voice. I think Pavement getting a lot of love on this. So a lot of choices for karaoke. So, unless you've got anything else to say about 1994, anyone?
I was quite surprised going through it. I think, like I said before, about the amount of crossover of that being main chart, and it'll be interesting to go onto our next one if we're somewhere between 82 and 94. See where this is starting to meld. Is it from the Britpop thing, or is it an earlier phenomenon when the Smiths started to come in and they kind of brought indie music over to the wider audiences?
Well, yeah, absolutely. If you give me say when, I'll run my finger up and down the spreadsheet.
I would say now.
1989. So there you go. You got your wish. It's an in between year. Right. Now in Festive 50.